So there's this scene in episode 5 of season 2 of Rings of Power where Duran IV himself is hammering through a wall deep in the mountain, ignoring all the warnings of the dwarves that surround him, even of his own son. He is trying to carve his way to the light outside of Khazad-dûm, and he says, "We bring the sun to us," like he's trying to control nature itself. It's clear that his ambition has completely taken over, and it's not going to end well. The whole moment just screams greed. Duran wants power so badly that he's willing to risk everything for it. This episode is all about greed and its consequences, and it's time to talk about it. Hey, I'm Father Roderick, I'm a priest and I'm a geek, and I'm here to share with you the deeper layers of the stories that you love. Now, while I was watching episode 5 of Rings of Power season 2, I saw a lot of biblical parallels. Whether it's in the story of Duran IV's increasing obsession with the power of the ring, or Pharazôn's lust for eternal life, the struggles between good and evil, humility and pride, greed and sacrifice are front and center. But these conflicts aren't new. They reflect some of the most profound lessons that we also find in the Bible. One of the most striking moments in this episode is Duran IV's descent into the corruption of the ring that he is wearing. We watch as this ring begins to cloud his judgment, driving him to dig through the foundations of the mountain. Duran's speech proclaiming that they will bring the sun to us echoes the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. Like the man who sought to build a tower to reach the heavens, Duran believes that he can manipulate the forces of nature to serve his own greed. Instead of receiving the sun as a gift, as something to be honored and respected, he wants to control it. His ambition blinds him to the dangers of his actions, and it becomes clear that his pursuit of power through the ring is akin to idolatry, placing his faith in an object rather than in the higher order of creation. The Bible teaches that greed can corrupt even the noblest of souls, and we see this clearly as Duran turns away from the wisdom of tradition. Princess Disa's warning that listening to the mountain takes a lifetime of patience mirrors the biblical idea of waiting on God's timing. Duran, however, wants immediate results. He no longer wants to listen. He wants to take what he sees. In this, we see a fundamental shift from humility and trust in the natural order to pride and manipulation. The consequences of such actions are dire, both for Duran personally and for the dwarven kingdoms that will pay the price. And then the episode brings us back to Numor. Pharazôn's growing ambition also takes center stage in this episode. His desire for eternal life in the undying lands, a privilege granted to the elves alone, mirrors the story of Adam and Eve's temptation in the Garden of Eden. Faron, much like Adam and Eve, is not content with what he has. He wants more, coveting what was never meant to be his. In the story of Genesis in the Bible, Adam and Eve's fall from grace is a direct result of their greed, their desire to be like God, to live forever. Pharazôn's longing for immortality comes from the same place. He is no longer satisfied with his position as king. The scepter is no longer enough, and he is willing to sacrifice everything to attain the one thing that eludes him, eternal life. This quest for immortality, however, reveals a deeper truth about human nature. Greed, as depicted in Pharazôn's character, is never satisfied. It always aims for the next best thing, but it's never fulfilled. The Bible clearly warns that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and we see this reflected in Pharazôn's actions. His desire for eternal life blinds him to the true good, faith, love, and sacrifice, and instead leads him down a path of manipulation and destruction. If you're interested in my other videos and podcasts about movies and TV shows, make sure to check out my website, fatherroderick.com, where you have an overview of everything that I do. In Tolkien's Legendarium, Antar is a master of deception, and in this episode, his manipulation of Celebrimbor becomes increasingly apparent. Antar walks away when Celebrimbor speaks of friendship between elves and dwarves, a relationship that Antar doesn't want to see flourish. His behavior is reminiscent of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, sowing discord and mistrust while remaining just out of sight. When Celebrimbor begins to doubt, Antar is there to feed those doubts, pushing Celebrimbor to embrace the darker aspects of his ambition. The Bible speaks of the devil as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, and in many ways, Antar does exactly that. He uses subtle lies and half-truths to lure Celebrimbor further into his grasp, making him complicit in the creation of the Rings of Power. Celebrimbor's ambition, his desire to craft something of lasting beauty, ultimately becomes his downfall. Antar, like the devil, twists what is good and beautiful into something that corrupts and is evil. Now, we also see in this episode the plans to destroy Numenor's ancient temple to make way for an aqueduct. It is one of the most symbolic moments of the episode. It shows how far Numenor has strayed from its roots, prioritizing material progress over spiritual heritage. And this is a classical biblical theme. Nations that turn away from God's commands in favor of wealth and convenience often face judgment. In the Old Testament, we see similar actions taken by kings of Israel who desecrated holy spaces, leading to the downfall of their kingdoms. And this desecration isn't just about architecture, it's about the soul of Numenor. By tearing down its oldest temple, Numenor is metaphorically severing its connection to the divine, much like when Israel abandoned its covenant with God. The consequences of this decision are likely to be catastrophic, as history has shown us time and again. In contrast to the greed and corruption of Duran and Faron, Miriel stands out as a beacon of faith. Her belief that stillness of heart is sometimes the greatest display of faith resonates with the biblical teachings of trust and patience. Rather than taking up the sword, she believes in a bigger plan, a plan that even her enemies are a part of. And this reminds me of the story of Joseph in the Bible, who despite being betrayed and sold into slavery, trusted that God had a purpose for his suffering. In the end, the faith of Joseph was rewarded, just as we can hope that Miriel's will also be. Miriel's message to Elendil to stay put reflects the biblical idea of waiting on God's timing, even when this seems difficult. It's a powerful reminder that faith is not always about action. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is to remain still and to trust in a higher purpose. As episode 5 unfolds, we see how greed in its various forms takes root in the hearts of those who seek power. Duran's ambition to take what the mountain offers, Celebrimbor's pride in his craft, and Pharazôn's lust for eternal life all reflect the Bible's warnings about the dangers of unchecked desire. In the book of Proverbs, we read that pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. Each of these characters is heading towards their own downfall, blinded by their greed. And yet, amidst the darkness, there is hope. Miriel and Elendil's faith stand in stark contrast to the greed and corruption around them. Like the biblical prophets and faithful figures who trusted in God's plan, they remind us that true power lies not in wealth or immortality, but in faith and humility. In the end, the greatest battles are not fought with swords, but within the hearts of those who must choose between greed and goodness. And each of these characters face that choice. And it's a choice that we all face in one way or another. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this episode. Let me know in the comments, and of course, subscribe for more.